Hello and welcome to my garden, Princess Lillian's garden. In today's video, I'd like to show you the 7 advantages of growing yams in bags. The first one is that we're able to save space because you can actually place these bags close to each other. This you cannot do if you are using the traditional farm. You would have to distance them about 2 feet apart so that their roots do not get intertwined. If they are in bags, the roots cannot do such. They are already in their own enclosure. So space maximization is a very good advantage of growing our yams in bags. It's easy to move around and water the yams. You can water 200 yams if they're in bags, which you will find almost impossible to do if it's on the ground because of the distance that you would need to cover. It will be almost like a joke to say, I'm going to water my yams that I've planted in the farm, because they'll be so far apart and the soil will just take up all the water right away. If they're in bags, it's easier to water it, it's easier to fertilize it, it's easier to keep an eye on it and make sure nothing is wrong with all of your yams. The convenience that you can actually do it close to your house. You can do it either in your backyard, or if you have an empty plot of land, there's a building in it, but there's still some surroundings around just next door. You can plant it there. This convenience of having it close by, you don't have to wake up early in the morning and go to the farm in the forest. It's actually the second advantage, and it's very important because it means you can just go in and out and take a look and see that, okay, the leaves are all right, the leaves are growing as they should be, and come back home. It doesn't take you so much time to say, I'm covering this length of distance before I will actually reach the farm. If you're using bags and you're planting either in your backyard or somewhere in the neighborhood, you don't need to make heaps as would have been the case in the traditional yam growing way. What you would have to do is fill the bags. So you will have the outlay of purchasing the bags, filling them with soil, but it's still going to be less cost, because if you ask the people who actually hoe and make mounds on the farm, they tell you it's very, very hard to just go and start tilling the soil, trying to create either heaps or stretch mounds, because those are the 2 different ways that you can break up the earth and plant your yam the traditional way. If you are now using bags, what you do is you fill the bag with soil. The soil is already loose. You place your yam in it, you place more soil on top, and you place the bags, they support each other and they remain upright. You can place some sticks in the middle so that the leaves would have something to climb up when they start growing. The third important advantage is the security of knowing that nobody is going to come along and uproot your yam, because it's not so far away. It's actually close by. You can keep an eye on it. And it's not just about persons, it's about animals as well, about pests, about rodents that could come along and ruin your farm. If it's close by, you can keep an eye out on such things. Also, if sometimes the weather has not been conducive, maybe there's been a thunderstorm, some of the yams are falling, the leaves are now, instead of going upright, are just, you can easily amend these situations because you are able to grow your yams close to home. Number 4, you save cost and labor tilling and weeding, because when you're growing yam in the ground, you see all seeds dropping about will just start growing as well. Before you can have your yam, which would mature in 6-7 months, you will probably have to weed that farm 3 times before you actually can come along for the harvest. So it's a win-win situation if you have the soil already in bags and you don't have to be thinking about weeds. You may have 1 or 2 things trying to grow out in the bag, but you easily pick these things out, and that's it. The next type of labor that you save is the labor of having to just be there, keep an eye on your things, the labor of having to ensure that everything is all right. The 6th advantage is at harvesting time. In the traditional way of growing yams, harvesting time is a very hard time because the rains are over, it's now very hot and sunny, the grounds are hard. To get the yam out is a difficult task. It's not something that the farmer will just come along, and you need a lot of help with that. You need a lot of energy. Just one person cannot manage a farm with 200 heaps of yams. You need a lot of help. You need to carefully scrape the soil to get the yam out. It's not as if you just get there, pull the yam out. That's not how yams are harvested. You have to dig and dig around the yam before you will be able to free it, so that portions of it don't break into the soil, because if a yam is broken, it's not as good as a whole yam. So in the case of if you've grown in the bag, all you have to do is you come along, you water your bags on that morning when you want to harvest, and a few hours later you can just tip the bags over and pull out the entire content of the bag, and the soil will fall apart. That makes it very easy to harvest. One person can harvest 200. It may take more than a day, but it's easily done because you are not actually physically struggling to get the yams out. So that is actually one very big advantage, the harvesting, which is very easy to handle. Number 7, you can reuse the bags, the ones that have not yet got damaged. You can reuse the soil. You just need to put it back into the bags again. in the case of the traditional farming, you would have to do another set of heaps again the following year. You have to do heaps every year you want to farm. But in this case, you just put the soil back in again and it's prepared. You put in the amendments, the fertilizers, and you stand it. You can mix it with all the manures that you want and you're good to go. But in the case of the soil on the farm, after you've tilled, you go home, it gets solidified again, and you'd have to come back maybe 2-3 months later and start tilling again in preparation for another set of planting. It's much easier to grow in the bags. You can reuse the bags, you can reuse the soil, and amend it with more manures. But all these points shows us that actually yam farming is better done in bags. The one thing that one also can consider as an advantage in addition is that this may not be easy. If it comes to it and maybe there's a flood or there's a situation, you can shift all those yams, you can shift all those bags. If you can't use that space again, it's possible to shift the yam bags to another location. You can't do this if it's actually in the ground, the traditional way of farming. So that's another very important advantage of growing our yams in bags. We're all in this together, trying to bring down the cost of food. So try and plant some yam. Thank you for watching. I hope you understand now why it's actually a good point to grow yams in bags. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, leave a comment and a like. Ask your questions and I'm here to answer them. There's also a few things that we need to know while growing our yams, and I'm going to make a video on that next time. Thank you. Take care of yourselves and bye.